We give our test results of the Tesla Model Y next on Talking Cars. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode. I'm Mike Monticello.
I'm Gabe Schenhauer.
And I'm Jake Fisher.
So today we're going to talk about the all-new Tesla Model Y for the entire episode. And now the Model Y is an all-electric SUV. It's based on Tesla's Model 3, which is its most popular model. And basically what the Model Y is, it's like a taller, roomier version of the Model 3. And you might ask, why would we devote an entire episode to one car? Well, for one thing, whenever we do anything Tesla, especially with new models, it generates a lot of attention, a lot of feedback from all you folks out there. And the other thing is, this is a very sophisticated car. So there's a lot of nuances to it. And so there's really a lot to cover with it. And we want to get to everything that we possibly can about the car, so you guys know as much as you can about it. So let's talk about the car that we bought for our test program. So we bought a Model Y long-range all-wheel drive. And we also opted for the full self-driving capability feature, which when we bought it a little while ago was $7,000. But if you go on Tesla's website today, that full self-driving capability is now up to $10,000. And we're going to talk more about full self-driving capability a little later in the episode. The total price of our car was $61,190. It's a dual motor EV with 384 horsepower, and it has an EPA driving range of 316 miles on a full charge. Enough about that. Jake, let's get right into it. What is this new Model Y like to drive?
It's really, really nice, and what's interesting about it is that, it feels much more like a sports car than it does an SUV, or it's even hard to even kind of think about it as an SUV. I kind of think of it as a kind of a hatchback.
You really don't like calling it an SUV, do you?
You keep calling it an SUV, and I know, it people do, but it kind of feels like a little bit taller hatchback. But I mean, really, it feels like a sports car. It is just super nimble. The acceleration is just, as you'd expect from Tesla, and we've seen this from other models. I mean, it's just instantaneous torque, and it just throws to the back of the seat. It's really enjoyable. And just when it comes to, compared to the Model 3, we said the same thing about the Tesla Model 3. It's really more, it's almost more akin to like a Porsche Boxster than it is to a sedan. And I think, you really retain a lot of that with the Model Y. It just feels extremely nimble, really quick, really responsive.
And of course, it's electric, so it's really quiet, and it has that. All electric vehicles are going to give all their power as soon as you give it full throttle off the line. But one of the interesting things about the Model Y, as with other Teslas, is it's got so much power that even when you're at highway speeds, it's still, and you hit the gas pedal again, say, to make a passing maneuver, it still has tons of power, whereas some lesser EVs, not to pick on the Nissan Leaf, but example, once you're up to a decent speed in the Nissan Leaf and you hit the throttle pedal, it's not gonna have that burst of acceleration. But the Model Y still has that. Gabe, is there anything else you want to talk about that aspect, both the handling and the powertrain, as well as we really need to talk about driving range and how long it takes to charge this thing?
Yeah, so let me just expand on the handling a bit. I mean, it's really nimble, and with barely 2 turns between lock to lock and the steering rack, it feels so responsive, and that really makes it very enjoyable. Now, couple that with a stiff suspension that keeps the car on a very even keel kind of attitude in the corners. Nothing is for free, of course, so that stiff suspension gives you a really stiff ride. You feel every bump with that car, and that's something that I bet a lot of people are not going to appreciate. Now, the electric vehicle aspects of the car really, I mean, Tesla really nailed it. Everything that has to do with the EV operation is totally seamless. Also, when you're on the road on a long drive, you can just plug into a Tesla supercharger, which is DC fast charging, and it does that beautifully. We've experienced how other companies, other EVs do it, and it's not nearly as seamless.
Gabe, about how long are we talking? Let's say you're on a trip and you're down to, say, I don't know, 50 miles of range left or something, because you're being cautious and you hit a supercharger, but you're on a trip and you want to get going. What are we talking for to get back up to 80 to 100% charge?
Yeah, it varies. It depends on the state of charge. If you're really low, it'll be quicker. If you're close to being at around 80%, it'll be slower. For instance, I stopped at a supercharger for 7 minutes and I gained 50 miles, which sometimes is the thing that's going to make or break your trip.
And you're totally right. I mean, Tesla has figured out this electric stuff a lot better than other manufacturers. And I had the Porsche Taycan, and I was driving that. I drove it to New Jersey when it was okay to drive to New Jersey, and I stopped and you're at these charging stations that I was in the middle of a Walmart parking lot, kind of away from everything. But I've taken that trip before with Tesla, and it's like you're always at a good spot, someplace to have lunch, and you go and you have lunch for half an hour, and suddenly you got another 150 miles of charge. So it's really seamless. I mean, even right now in my garage, I'm driving the Toyota RAV4 Prime. And I'm charging it at home. But even just like little tiny things, like you take a Tesla, you take the charger, you put it near it, and automatically opens up, you plug it in, one-hand operation. With the RAV4 Prime, one hand, you got to open the thing up, you got to take the little plug thing over, you got to do that. It's really nice the way Tesla has kind of worked out these details.
Yeah, I mean, to charge it at the Model Y from empty is going to take you 10 hours on a 240 volt connector, 32 amp. Those Tesla customers that have the wall charger with 48 amp will do it faster. And I think that's totally worth it. It costs $500, but it'll charge the car in 6 hours instead of 10.
Right. We're going to move on to the interior, but I wanted to just touch back to the all-wheel drive system is fantastic in terms of, we get in some cars with some all-wheel drive systems, and if they're front-wheel drive based, they might spin the front tires as you're, taking off on a turn. This thing never spins its tires. It always puts the power down perfectly, at least so far in my experience. I will say that while the handling is really good, it doesn't really tell you a whole lot. And between, there isn't a ton of feel in that steering, and between almost no sound, this incredible power, and just not the most feedback, and this very stiff suspension, it's a little video gamey from that perspective, but it certainly gets the job done. And, the thing is, it is fun to drive. Let's move on to the interior. So let's actually, touching back on what Jake said about the Porsche Boxster, I kind of think the driving position sort of has that sort of Boxster-like feel in that, you've got this, you can have a great view of the road ahead. Gabe, do you find that too? Do you like the driving position and the front seat comfort?
Yeah, I like the driving position a lot because you sit very close to the road. You have a very expansive windshield, and the hood line is very low, so it makes you feel very much in touch with the road, and that's quite wonderful. Also, the seat comfort. Yeah, I like the seat comfort. It's very supportive. It's very well shaped. It has 4-way lumbar support. It's a good seat.
Jake, what about the rear seat? Because that's the one of the big differences between the Model Y and the Model 3. The Model 3 is really squished back there. There's not much room. Is the Model Y better?
Absolutely. And part of the problem with the Model 3 is just it's so low. So you're very low in that rear seat, and it's a higher rear seat. It's got more support, so it's definitely an improvement.
Yeah. The other thing with the interior is there's this screen, as with the Model 3, that dominates the interior of the car, this 15-inch touchscreen, which basically just about every interior function, you have to go through that touchscreen. Jake, how do you feel about that? And are there some good things to that? And what are the annoyances about that screen handling everything?
Well, it's funny you're talking about, it's almost like a video game, and there's literally are video games in that screen that you could operate with the steering wheel and the pedals. But beyond that, with the screens, I mean, one thing, Tesla does fairly well is they kind of have a nice layout. It's almost like very iPad-ish. It's very easy that way. The problem is yes, they stuffed everything in, just like the Model 3. And also, it's important to know, not like the Tesla Model S and the X, the more expensive ones. Those vehicles have a lot of hard controls that access certain things, which you don't get in this Y. So the Y, like for instance, there's no gauge cluster right in front of you, right? There's no speedometer. And initially people were afraid that's going to be an issue. It's not that big of an issue. The big issue is that if you want to adjust your mirrors, you want to adjust your steering wheel, you want to adjust if the vents are blowing on your face or your hands, you have to go through menus on this screen. And that's just, unfortunately, they've made changes. They have not improved things. They've made things worse. And I don't think anyone who drives the more expensive Teslas are complaining that, oh, I hate that I have a button over here to adjust my mirrors. Like, I wish I didn't have that and I could put it in the screen. So that's unfortunate.
Gabe, do you find it surprising that they don't have a head-up display? I mean, this is such an advanced car. If you're not going to have any gauges in front of you, which is part of the reason why the view forwards is so fantastic, because there's no instrument panel shroud. But why not just put a standard head-up display in the car so you can see things like the speed ahead of you instead of over to the right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the head-up display would be a wonderful addition here, and would help drivers keep their gaze on the road rather than having to look sideways. And some of the displays on that screen are off way far to the right side, and if you want to glance at the temperature or the time, the small font is really kind of annoying. A lot of other functions are kind of very convoluted and mixed in with a bunch of other functions there. So it's very distracting. No question about it.
I mean, in terms of like the speedometer and stuff like that, I mean, to be honest with you, the more I drive the car, I can get used to that. The problems, what I can't get used to is getting through a menu for simple things. I mean, the wipers, that I have to go and select a menu to turn the wipers on. And I know it has automatic, but they don't always work that well.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like you said, I know this may sound weird. I think we've gotten comments about this before, but I do adjust my dash vents, usually depending on the trip, several times a trip, right? Like sometimes I want it higher, I want it lower. And the fact that you can't just touch the vent and move it that's just one of those weird Tesla things, along with also just the way the door handles open and, the exterior door handles in that weird kind of two kind of part of your hand operation to get it to open. It's just, it doesn't have to be that way. They chose to make it that way. So that's on them. Before we go further, I just want to talk about a giving moment here, folks. In case you don't know, we want to tell you about our Talking Cars donation program. If you don't know, Consumer Reports is a nonprofit organization. And in order to do all the work that we do, including producing this Talking Cars podcast, we rely on memberships, but also as well, a lot of donations. So if you have some money you could give to help out, it would go a long ways. You can find more info at cr.org/givetalkingcars. And now back to our regular scheduled programming. Let's move on to talking about Autopilot and full self-driving capability features. Autopilot, which is a combination of lane keeping assistance and adaptive cruise control, comes standard on all Teslas. This full self-driving capability feature is optional. And we did go for that. And that's got a whole bunch of features that do everything from helping you change lanes, helping you park, to even can come to a full stop at stop signs and stoplights. Jake, there's a bunch of systems in there, 6 systems that are a part of that option. What do we think of these things? Do they actually help the driver?
So we've done a test of the full self-driving system. And of course, the problem with the full self-driving system, again, I'm going to do the quotes on this because that's what it's called. That's not what it is. It does not fully self-drive the car. It is not autonomous at all. It's called that. I think it's unfortunate and a bit misleading. But we've tested it. Part of the problem with testing is that it is changing. So it's a work in progress. There's constantly updates. It's doing different capabilities, more capabilities. But just kind of a high level, I mean, you could certainly, take a look and Dave throw them in the show notes below and you could read, more details on the full self-driving system. But the way to think about it, it's really kind of a work in progress. I mean, what you're really paying for is not necessarily a convenience or anything to make the car safer. What you're paying for is an opportunity to kind of be a tester of the system as it develops. And that's really what they're using everyone for, because they're collecting information and they're trying to improve upon it. So it does, Sometimes it will work. Sometimes it'll stop at that traffic light. Sometimes it'll follow the right way, but not always. So it's not necessarily a convenience for that, because you almost have to be hyper vigilant, watching what it does, and making sure it doesn't do the wrong thing and be able to take over.
Yeah, I mean, they list some of those features as beta, and Gabe, beta basically means it's not fully baked, right? Is that correct? I mean, so then at that point, it seems a little like it's a little maybe unsafe to have just regular people out there testing these systems.
That's 100% right. It's a beta, and and as Jake said, you're a guinea pig. You're involved in validating those systems, and it may work in the traffic light, and may not, and you need to be super vigilant. You have to watch the car. And I'll say also regarding the regular assist, the adaptive cruise and lane keep assist, I don't think that, even though people think that Autopilot is it. Other manufacturers give you that capability and do some of it even better. For instance, I find that the lane keep assist is a little too abrupt. It waits too long to give you a steering input. And some narrow roads, like when you have a guardrail, that's a little too close for comfort for me. So I'm not, and every time you have to tug the steering wheel and get involved yourself, the system gets it gets disengaged, and then you have to re-engage it. And that's really, really a pain.
So we did a full test just recently, and we could get that in the show notes below too.
Yep.
Of these active driving assistance systems, and Gabe's right. And there's lots of them around. I mean, almost all the manufacturers now have similar systems. Now, Autopilot is really branded very well, and a lot of people are familiar with it. But the truth is, it's not the best system. In fact, when we were doing the test, we actually tried out an aftermarket system from a company, Comma AI. It's called the Comma 2. And so again, for $1,000, we took this system and we threw it on our Toyota Corolla, and it scored much better actually than Autopilot. It did a lot of things much better than it did, and we, a lot of the details we don't have to get into. But I mean, the steering worked better. You were able to collaboratively work with it. It had you didn't actually have to hold on to the steering wheel, because it actually had a camera that makes sure that the driver is looking where they're going, rather than using your hands on the steering wheel as a proxy. It was very, very capable. So I mean, this stuff isn't really rocket science. Right. I mean, right. I know, Elon Musk is working on rocket science, and, that's very impressive. But in terms of these systems, there are better ones out there.
Yeah.
One thing I'd like to note also, a lot of people associate blind spot warning with that umbrella of driving assist features, and it's one of the things that is most appreciated. And Tesla does not really have a proper blind spot warning system in the mirror, because it, although it knows its place on the road due to all the cameras, it'll show you where the Tesla is and the surrounding vehicles on the center screen. But the thing is that when you change lanes, you don't necessarily gaze at the center screen. You're more naturally focused on the side mirrors, and that's where the blind spot warning should be at.
We've done surveys of a lot of these safety systems, and satisfaction with Tesla is very high. There's no question about that. But when we actually specifically asked about that blind spot warning system, it was pretty much at the bottom. I mean, the satisfaction with it was very low compared to virtually all the other automakers, because it's exactly what Gabe says. It's not where you are looking.
Right. So we've gotten a lot of questions and comments from our audience members out there about this Model Y. Again, like we talked about, any Tesla generates a lot of attention, and this one has as well. We actually have a question here from Ivan. Ivan says, I've enjoyed watching your Model Y coverage. One area I've seen complaints in online forums is fit and finish, panel alignments, gaps, and paint quality. Has the CR Model Y had any of these issues? Jake, has it?
So it's interesting to bring that up. So, I mean, in terms of our car, when it really comes down to, look, there's fit and finish, and then there's actually reliability issues.
Right.
So, I mean, if the panel gap isn't quite aligned, I've seen lots of comments like that. We tend to try to get some of the first cars that are off the production line. It doesn't really make a big difference when it comes to consumers. What is the issue is the problems that people are having. And this is really interesting with the Model Y. We have seen some of these issues are so bad that they're actually serious problems for people. So for instance, it's one thing if your panel gap isn't perfect, but what we've heard from a lot of members and who own these cars is that, for instance, the rear hatch was so out of line it wouldn't even latch. So now it's a problem. You're bringing it back to Tesla. Tesla, you need to get these things resolved. We've heard a lot of paint issues, for instance. One member actually even told us that they actually saw what they thought was human hair stuck in the paint. In addition to other ones that the paints weren't matching. Again, where these cars are, the paint's chipping, they have to get the car actually fixed. So fin and finish is one thing, but when there's actually problems where you are working and trying to get these resolved, that's another animal. And when we look at reliability, that's really kind of the Achilles heel of this vehicle. So it's not just those types of issues. We've been seeing powertrain problems. We've seen all different types of issues with this car. And unfortunately, we're not recommending it because of the reliability information that we're getting from people who own the car. If it was just our testing, we would say, absolutely, we really enjoy this car. In fact, the testing, it actually did better than the Model 3. Just because it's a little roomier and there's more cargo and things like that. But it's one of these vehicles that maybe you want to wait a year and hopefully they work out some of those bugs.
I also want to point out that, to what you're talking about with CR's reliability data, which of course comes from, responses that we get from CR members. When we analyzed the data and realized that this car was proving unreliable, we did reach out to Tesla for a comment to ask them what was going on with the car, and they declined to get back to us. So we don't have a response from them about the car's reliability. But kind of along those lines, we have another comment here and question from Matthew from New York City, who also sent in a video. And Matthew says, we received our Model Y in early September. We expected Tesla to have hammered out a big chunk of manufacturing and quality issues plaguing their cars. We became worried when we found water seeping into the cargo area load floor after a heavy rainstorm. And that's what you're going to see in the video. We scheduled a service appointment, and our issues were acknowledged. We exchanged our car for a couple of Uber vouchers to get around the city as our car is being worked on, but this is not a good substitute for a personal car loaner. We love the Model Y for the way it drives, its size, and its electrified nature, but we are having second thoughts on our purchase. We'd love to hear whether Uber credits are a good substitute for a loaner, but more importantly, what would you do if you were in our situation? Jake, you want to handle this one too? What would you do?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is exactly what we're talking about. So, look, water coming into the rear. I mean, this is obviously not, the powertrain exploding or something like that. I mean, but this is an annoyance. This is a problem. And, this is not really a great situation where you're getting Uber credits when you want a vehicle, especially when you're in the midst of a pandemic. So this is an issue. Now, look, I mean, if you bought another type of vehicle, if it wasn't a Tesla, chances are you may or may not get a loaner car either. But this is really why reliability and having everything working right on the car is so important, because it is huge inconvenience. It's not something you want to go through. And, what's really interesting about, again, going back to these types of issues, though, I think, looking at that video, that's actually the body relief valve, which is the back of the car. All cars have this. Basically, the air comes into the car, it's got to go somewhere, and that's really where it is. Sealing for this. I mean, these are the types of things that all the other automakers seem to have worked out years and years ago. Things about getting the paint on right, not having hair in the paint, having the doors closed, and we have this automaker that is trying to solve self-driving. I wish they would solve, getting the doors to close and the paint to match. So, hopefully with some time in the production line, we could get these things fixed. They could get those working, and it could be a great choice for people.
Yeah. Let's not mention the human hair in the paint ever again, if you don't mind.
I haven't verified it's human
okay.
hair.
Who knows? That might be worse. Let's get to another question. This one comes from Gary. Also a question about the Model Y. Gary says, we own a Tesla Model 3. We like the car, but the ride is rough and too low. And I think what Gary means is the car is too low to the ground. We have a Model Y on order and hope it will be better. If it doesn't work out, what other SUVs should we consider for ride height, ease of entry, and quiet interior? Gabe, you got any suggestions here?
Well, I think that given that they're ready to go electric, they don't have a whole lot of choices yet. But one idea that I'd throw out there is there are quite a few Audi e-trons out there from 2019. I mean, this is an $80,000 car when it was new, and now you can get them for like $50,000 with low mileage, maybe 7,000 miles or so. That car, we don't recommend that car either because of reliability. But
we don't recommend it, but Gabe does.
But I mean, it all depends how much stomach you have for these problems. If you're willing to bite the bullet with a Tesla, then the Audi at least is going to give you a comfortable ride, and it's going to be quiet, and you're going to have the ease of access. No one's going to know you're driving electric, though, but you're going to know that you're driving an enjoyable car.
Yeah, and I do. Go ahead, Jake.
I don't recommend buying cars that we don't recommend. So I mean, look, the truth is with the Y compared to the Model 3, I mean, it is a little bit higher.
That's what I was going to go
a
there.
little
So
bit.
Yeah. But the ride is marginally better. It's not much better.
The problem is the reliability.
Better, yeah.
The problem is the reliability, and this is the serious problem here. So I mean, you shouldn't have to put up with that. I'm going to throw out a completely very, very much more practical choice, and it's actually what I'm driving right now. Is that the RAV4 Prime. Test car, and no, it's not fully electric, right. But I mean, I'm driving less than 40 miles a day, and I'm charging it on 110, and I haven't had the engine pop on for weeks. So I mean, there are different, more practical ways to go if you're not looking for, a true sports car, which is really what the Model Y, the appeal, I think, is.
And that RAV4 Prime is a Gabe verified best RAV4 ever made, right, Gabe?
You bet. It rides comfortably. It's going to be an enjoyable car. But it's only conditionally electric.
Right. Okay. Well, that's going to do it for this episode. We hope you enjoyed learning all about the Model Y. If you want to learn more about the Model Y and all of the topics we discussed, don't forget to click on the links in the show notes. And don't forget to send us those questions, comments, 30-second video clips to TalkingCars@icloud.com. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all next week.